Are you getting ready to take the Praxis 5266 physics exam? Maybe I can help. My name is Matt Taylor, and I am a test prep expert with Study.com. In this video, I'll walk you through everything that is on the test, how best to prepare, and my top 5 strategy tips. In short, we'll make sure you're as ready as possible for the big day. All right, let's jump in. Praxis 5266 tests whether you have the knowledge, skills, and abilities to teach physics. The exam includes questions that cover the following categories: nature and impact of science and engineering, which covers 12% of the exam with 15 questions; principles and models of matter and energy, which is about 15% of the exam with 19 questions; mechanics, which contains a whopping 44 questions and makes up 35% of the test; electricity and magnetism, which shrinks to 21% of the exam with 26 questions; and waves, which contains 21 questions for 17% of the exam. In general, the exam will test whether your knowledge, skills, and abilities to teach physics meet national standards. There's a technical tip to note here for the Praxis, which forms the basis of my first study tip in this video. Don't only pay attention to physics topics proper when preparing for this exam. Devote some time to the pedagogical task of teaching physics. Half or more of the questions will ask about the scientific content, and about a third of the exam will ask about the discipline of teaching as it relates to physics. There's some saving grace here. You won't need a calculator. The periodic table of elements will be available as a help screen, and you'll have all conversion units necessary to answer all questions. So, how long is the test and how is it scored? Praxis 5266 gives 2 hours and 30 minutes for the exam, with 125 multiple choice questions, which the Praxis calls selected response. This gives you a little over 1 minute per question. Most of the multiple choice questions will have a single correct answer, but some of these multiple choice questions will have one or more correct answers. You can identify these questions by the phrase, "select all that apply." There are a few other types of questions that are less common, including some with click and drag elements, and some with audio or video prompts. So my second strategy tip is to aim for about a minute per selected response question, so you have a cushion for harder questions. My third strategy tip is related. Skip questions if they are taking a long time. You can always come back to them later on, but you don't want to spend all your time too early. So now that we have covered the basics, now let's dive into some test specifics. Praxis 5266 examines your knowledge of physics. It would be best to think as broadly as possible about this subject, as the questions were developed by experts from all across the field, including practicing teachers, teacher educators, and specialists. That means you can expect to be assessed on a wide range of topics. In fact, that's my fourth study tip here. Approach the exam holistically, studying with an eye toward all aspects of the field of physics. This will include discipline-specific concepts, terms, phenomena, methods, applications, and analytics. All that said, let's now take a look at the 5 question categories. The first category, nature and impact of science and engineering, will broadly test your ability to present and defend scientific arguments, explain hypotheses, theories, experiments, and basic mathematical functions, identify environmental phenomena like the greenhouse effect, and describe the proper way to discard of hazardous waste. The Praxis will also ask you to interpret graphs and make sense of scientific notation, so don't skip over your math practice. The second category, principles and models of matter and energy, will dive more into the theory behind physics concepts. You'll want to know facts about atom structure, light frequency, nuclear energy, radioactivity, energy, gas, and thermodynamics. These topic areas might ask you to calculate a substance's half-life, why one material feels cooler than the other, or what energy is needed to change water from a solid to a liquid. In mechanics, the third exam category, you'll need to know about force and motion. Specifically, you'll need to know how to apply the laws of friction, fluid mechanics, momentum, and other energy-based phenomena. Then you'll apply your knowledge to determine distance, displacement, acceleration, and velocity. You might be asked to present a graphical demonstration of acceleration and velocity, as well as identify the theories at work behind everyday events, such as why gymnasts raise their arms to regain balance. Here's an example question for the mechanics category that also shows the type of task of teaching question you'll see throughout the exam. The electricity and magnetism category will take a more granular look at the world of physics, asking you to calculate electrostatic force between 2 points, determine potential energy, describe the interactions between wires, capacitors, and resistors, and answer questions about global electric fields. Here's an example of an electricity and magnetism that also showcases a question where there are multiple correct answers. Lastly, the waves category draws on wave theory generally, which includes both light and sound. But many of these questions will be very practical, so expect to answer questions about the appearance of color in the sky, how an organ functions, or what happens when sunlight falls on a soap bubble. Here's an example waves question. It's a math question, but since calculators aren't allowed on this exam, you can see it's pretty basic math. The Praxis 5266 test covers the full range of physics topics, so there's a lot to go over, and maybe it's been a minute since you thought about how to set up a classroom. So what's the best way to prep? We recommend starting with a full-length practice test. Study.com's test prep course offers multiple, so that you can identify where you need to spend most of your study time. Don't worry about your score the first time around. You're just trying to figure out where you need to focus. Study.com will generate a study plan with top priorities for you. If you use other test prep materials, you may need to analyze your practice results manually. Watch lessons to review the topics in your study plan and do practice problems or make flashcards to transfer the material to your long-term memory. And take heed of my last study tip. Practice, practice, practice. There is no substitute for working through sample questions that mirror those that you will face on test day. Every practice question that you do is going to help you be that much more prepared. Need a concrete prep recommendation? I highly recommend Study.com's Praxis 5266 Physics Prep course. It covers everything that I just went through, but in a ton more detail. The course, written and vetted by former teachers, also includes short-form videos for every relevant concept and a bank of high-quality practice questions with answer explanations. And what's more, users who complete the course have a 92% pass rate on the test. If this video helped you, check out the other videos in this and other series for more Praxis test prep. And please like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and hit that notification bell so that you'll be the first to know when our new teacher test prep content drops. Are there specific tests or questions that you want us to cover? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to circle back once you have passed your test so that we can celebrate with you. Good luck!